Alright, now here we go with Hellraiser 5, Inferno. Going into this, again, I did not know what I would think of this movie, but honestly, watching this one might be my third favorite. Like, I think that the first one is really incredible and fantastic, and the second one is a fine sequel with issues I have. And then this one I think would be my number three because this one, I wonder if people hate this one because this one is barely features Pinhead, like barely. He's barely in it. And it is a hard-boiled detective story about this guy named Joseph is trying to find this kid taken by this character named the Engineer. And he keeps cutting off the kid's fingers. So this one I feel like is probably not liked by a lot of people in terms of like wanting to see Pinhead, in terms of like wanting to see like the stuff that he does. But honestly, I thought this was a great change of pace from the fourth one, because the fourth one I didn't really like. I thought it was really pretty bad. It wasn't the worst thing ever, but it was pretty bad. And this one, I love the fact that it's played so seriously for the most part. Like, as opposed to the third one and the fourth one, where they're kind of way more silly and over the top. And in this one, it's way more serious. And I loved how they went back to that and not made it goofy. And Doug Bradley isn't goofy in this either. Like, I thought it was funny that he had restraint in this, even though I do think he's fine when he's goofy because he's a good actor and his performance is good. But it just cracks me up that like they did that in the first two. He's really serious, and then 3 and 4 he's really goofy, and in this one he's serious again. And I like that, and it feels like the movie is more of a mystery, even though you know what it is. If you've seen the other Hellraiser movies up till now, you know that this what Pinhead is, what the Cenobites are, and what they're going to do. But I really like this one because it did a detective story in the Hellraiser universe. Like, it was just about this detective, and he finds, he finds hints to what fear he has to come. And I thought that this was a great one-off, I'm assuming, because it seems like the ending doesn't imply that there's any other connection to the other films. But first off, starting out, whenever I started watching this movie, I was so surprised to see Scott Derrickson directed this, the guy who did, I think, Deliver Us from Evil and Doctor Strange. Did he do Sinister too? I can't remember. Was it him? Yes, Scott Derrickson did Sinister 2 as well. Sinister is fantastic as well, so I love seeing Scott Derrickson directed this. Like, I thought that was funny, and honestly, that might have made me a little biased because I like him. I think he's a great director. For the movies I've seen, I think his movies are great. So seeing him in the credits as the director, I was like, that's good. Hopefully this brings something to it, and I felt like it did. I felt like, since it did start out as this detective story, I thought it was way more interesting than 4. Like, I thought 4 was just boring and uninteresting, honestly. And like Joseph the detective starts having these like visions of Pinhead, where like, or like the Cenobites, where there's one scene where like these 2 Cenobite women are rubbing against him, and they like put their hands into his chest, like skin into his chest, like they dig into his chest and just start rubbing him inside of his skin. And it's really weird, but I like that. I like that a lot. And I liked how he has like a one-off or a one-night stand with this hooker, and he goes to work, and then she calls him, and then she screams over the phone and dies over the phone. And I thought that was actually pretty scary. I thought that actually worked. I thought that made the movie kind of like moments like that. Like, this movie does a good job with restraint, like as opposed to 3 and 4 where it's like it's really silly. This one is very good with restraint and not showing Pinhead and not showing some of the murders, where it's just like you hear them. It makes it scarier, and I love that. I love that he did an old style of that instead of like really over the topness like 3 and 4. And like I said, he's trying to find this missing boy, and he just meets all these random weird characters. But I thought that I enjoyed the ride of him meeting these characters, trying to figure out where to go next, what to do. And like I like the fact that this story too, it gives a lot for this Joseph character. Like it tells a lot of his like his relationship with his wife and with his kids and with his family, with his mother and father. And I love that scene whenever he goes into the hospital to see his mother and father, and they're there, and then they suddenly disappear, which they're taken. But whenever he's walking down the hallway, that's a great creepy scene because like it shows people dressed up as Cenobites just going down the hallway. Then there's this old man who's got his face not chained but pulled out to where his mouth is stretched out to here, and he's got a little girl laugh, and it really worked. Like I was like, that's creepy. That's really cool. I like that. And scenes like that made this movie remind me a lot of Exorcist 3, even though this is not as good as Exorcist 3 at all. Like Exorcist 3 is amazing. I love that movie. But I like that this is like Exorcist 3, a detective story where this guy is trying to find out what's going on, and it's more paranormal than or supernatural than what he intends, and I like that. I like how it starts out in a normal world and then it goes crazy and crazier like Exorcist 3 does. Like that is a cool, like this felt like that kind of movie and I enjoyed it more because of that. Even though Exorcist 3 is amazing and definitely this is not as good as that one, but like there's a lot of cool imagery and cinematography to this too, like for this low budget direct to video movie. I think it's direct to video, I'm assuming. I know that I can't remember if it starts with 3 in their direct to video afterwards, but for a direct to video movie, this really does have, I think, quality. Like how it looks great, and it's got some cool creepy effects. Like the effects and makeup are pretty good for this movie, honestly. Like it surprised me. They're not too bad. Just like in 4 too. 4 was the same way, where they were in space and the spaceship, the effects using the spaceship and the box closing, like at the end of the movie, like that was cool in 4, and it looked like good CGI for that time. And this one, I guess, got a good budget too because it's more grounded, but whenever it's got the creepy imagery I think is great because I think they didn't have, because the rest of the movie is set in the real normal world. I think whenever they got the effects in, they had enough of a budget to make them look good, and I think that the effects are really great looking in this movie. The scene closer to the end where like Joseph finds his family dead and they're spinning around on that thing with the snow falling down, that's a great image, and I really liked images like that, and I liked how this movie looked. It looked creepy whenever it was not in the normal world. Like, whenever it showed the hellscape kind of thing, it was creepy, and the effects were really good for this movie, for this time. I really did appreciate that. And I love the fact that it isn't, like, really goofy, but it's just, like, a weird twist where, like, Joseph is talking to the psychologist in the movie, earlier in the movie, because he's got issues, and then at the end of the movie he's like, the psychologist comes to him, and then you realize the psychologist is Pinhead. Whoa. And then like you realize that the kid who kept getting his fingers cut off was Joseph, and Joseph like had like this, it's hard to explain, it's this weird thing where like Pinhead traps him in kind of a time loop where like he finds all these people throughout the movie that have died, and they're talking to him, and it's really creepy, and it really works. And he keeps going through this loop where, like, he'll wake up, and then he doesn't wake up. Before that, he, like, encounters all these dead people from the movie, and then he gets chained to the face, and then he wakes up, finds the box around him, wakes up by the hooker, and then goes to work. The scream happens. He tries to shoot himself in the head. Then he wakes up again in the next to the box. And I love how this movie did have an inner monologue throughout, like at the beginning and the end. And at the end of the movie, his inner monologue was like saying that I am stuck in this hell forever, like I can't escape this. Like it literally is just gonna go back and forth, like I said, because he gets chained and killed by Pinhead, but then he wakes up next to the box, and then he goes to work, the same call from the hooker, he shoots himself, he wakes up again next to the box, so he's literally trapped forever, and I thought that was really cool. And his line at the end was great, where he said like he's got all these demons and they're gonna stay with him until he dies, and then he just screams, and then it ends. And that's why I think it's a one-off, because I don't think they're gonna have this connect to the other movies. But again, this one was such a big surprise. Like, I seriously think that watching this, it just, I mean, I didn't expect much, but I really did enjoy this movie. This was awesome, and in some ways I might like it better than 2, but 2 I think is a, I don't know, 2 I think has, like, I like the characters more, Kirsty and Julia, and the effects are better and it's theatrical. And this one is not theatrical, but it still has great effects. It has a good main character. It has a lot of good effects and cinematography, and I think that it is one of the best sequels out of all of them I've seen so far. Like, this is surprising. But like I said, a lot of people might not like this one because Pinhead is not in this a lot at all. It's a detective story set in the Hellraiser world, and then it does eventually go into Pinhead and his plan, but like, it doesn't do that the whole movie. So, but to be fair, the first 2 movies don't have much of Pinhead either. So, I totally dug this one. This one was great. Like, I'm excited to see the next one, even though I don't know if it'll be good or not. But this one was an awesome one-off. I loved this movie a lot. One of the best sequels out of all of them so far. So I enjoyed this one. Really pumped for the next one. We'll see what I think next. If it's good or bad, I don't know. I'll review it. So thanks for watching.